amazing, this last speech, actually. You get a bit worried and scared when you hear things of not only the healthy aging, actually some of us, or perhaps all of us, somebody told us earlier today, are going to have dementia if we live long enough. And well, only it goes quickly and I forget everything. It will be fine, I don't know. How about you? Are you looking forward to getting dementia, Peter?
Some people might think I've already got it. The interesting thing, I think, is I have two granddaughters who are quite small, and if you look at the population projections, they have an extremely high chance of living to 100 years of age, and that's part of the reality of these forward projections. I mean, things are going to be very different in this part of the world as well as in Africa and Asia.
Isn't it true that people that get really, really old, they are like clear in their minds?
Well, some of them are. There was one guy in Britain this week who is 100 years old, and to celebrate it, he cycled 100 kilometers.
Wow. But you could do that with dementia, couldn't you?
Maybe. He was going round and round a track.
There is two forms of Alzheimer. I have a friend who said there is a difference between Alzheimer delight and Alzheimer delete. Alzheimer delight, then you just forget the bad things and you have only the good memories. Alzheimer delete, then you forget everything.
We do have a question back here.
No.
Some questions?
Yes, I have a question. I can shout.
We can.
For Peter Bryant.
I can hear you anyway.
Yeah, I talk loud. I have this idea that we were seeing the projections. How are the country projected to move from poor to richer, and what will happen with the part in the middle when all those 1.6 billion Chinese become wealthy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's. I mean, the question was, what happens as countries not only live longer but become richer, and clearly these are all very complicated, interacting things. I mean, to some extent, people who live in better surroundings, in other words, who are richer, live longer, and also, when a country is richer, it spends more on health services, and so that also promotes the longevity. So it's very difficult to actually disentangle those kind of things. I mean, if you look at the history of Europe, in most of the major European cities 200 years ago had serious amounts of malaria. But, a lot of people died of malaria in London and many other European cities, and nobody ever did anything to get rid of it, but life got better and people got richer and houses got better and so on and so on, and that's clearly what's going to happen. So it's that really complicated kind of multifactorial change, which, to be honest, and I say this as a measurement specialist, is a nightmare to measure, to really work out what's affecting what and what all the competing factors are.
I'm not wrong, but there's been a change in life expectancy in Russia, for example, in recent years.
Downwards.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so,
yes.
So what you're raising is very, very important.
Yeah.
The socioeconomic context can even somehow change the very positive life expectancies that we're seeing right now. So it is.
And that's a bit paradoxical, because I think the reality of that is that in the communist era, the health services were unreasonably good in relation to the economic performance. So the economic performance has gone up, but the health service performance has plummeted. I mean, the organizational health service performance.
If we
complex.
put all your intelligence here into an application to, say, for the framework program Horizon 2020, we put in some ideas on lifelong learning or long life learning. We put in some ideas on sustainable development. We put in some ideas on ICT, new technology. We learn from the Japanese and from people from Korea. And then we have some global health mission. How would you say that such an approach will be designed?
Well, I mean, if you're starting on this end, I mean, going back to the point about interdisciplinarity, but also to be a little careful that, as I mentioned, all disciplines are not equal. So if we had a genuine interdisciplinarity approach, I think that would be really something that we could all gain from. And particularly, I think, on the lifelong learning and life course approach, the point that's been made in different ways, I think, by everybody about the importance of looking at the life course as an entire, aging as an entire life course experience, basically. So even if we're looking at employment, do we have to pack all our employment in between the ages of 16, 18, 23 and 65 or so, or should we be looking at much more varied work patterns?
I hope that your proposal will involve people participating in the project design. I hope it'll draw on the massive resource we have of seniors in Europe and what they can learn from working with groups in other parts around the world. I think if we just leave it to governments, we'll have a problem. If we're involving people and linking them with each other across disciplines and across borders, then we may have a chance of having something sustainable.
And what about new technology?
I can absolutely support that. I think it is clear that governments cannot fill the gap. We need social innovation. We've had a lot of discussion in many different fora at the OECD about social entrepreneurship and what social innovation can do actually in this area. And in terms of information technology, there are enormous potentials, but we need to be able to harness these potentials. And there actually government action is needed. It's really needed in order to set the standards, to make sure that we have the privacy and security in place in order to create trust and raise trust in the users. So there are quite a few issues there. But the potentials are tremendous, and it would be a shame not to take advantage of those potentials in terms of new smart models of care and empowering the older people even to be active at home. And lifelong learning also is part of, ICTs can do a lot for lifelong or long life learning, as you. Yeah.
And finally, quite a mundane point. I mean, Maria mentioned life course epidemiology, which is clearly very important, but the reality is in the world today that more than half of the births and deaths that occur are not even recorded and documented. Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, said a couple of years ago, we need to make each and every person count and be counted, and that's absolutely fundamental to really understanding what's going on in the global scenario.
Will you, Joanna, give some more questions, or will we
I think this is a very good place where you could end this session, and I think you're all aware that outside we will have some mingle. So please take the opportunity to stay and put questions, because you will stay here for 20 minutes. Perfect.
We'll give the final word to Torbjörn Larsson, but before that, Bo Johansson would say just in 30 seconds about a conference in Gothenburg 2014. I think you just could say it without any help from the technology, by using the microphone.
In 2014, there will be a Nordic Congress of Gerontology held here in Gothenburg, and it will be organized from the level of the cell all the way up to the level of the society. So really an interdisciplinary Congress, and you're all welcome. And on top of this, there will be an innovation for the first time, and a track for one day in applied gerontology, forskning och utveckling, where we will also bring in more of practice-based experiences to research in order to facilitate this communication that is highly needed nowadays. So in May 2014, check out the web page 22nkg.com. Thank you.
I will skip my concluding remarks due to these nice technological time constraints and give the word to Torbjörn Larsson.
Det var ju väldigt snällt. Ja, jag ska inte säga några större märkvärdigheter. Jag har pratat med Alexandra Charles idag. Hon tyckte vi skulle göra en sak. Ni som har en smartphone, har ni det? Det finns en app som heter Gå för hjärtat. Ladda ner den så hjälper ni 1,6 och 2,6 miljoners klubben. Det var hennes hälsning där från sjuksängen. Jag skulle också vilja säga tack till de andra som har funnits med i arrangörsgruppen här, till Vinnova, Johanna, till Kenneth och till Kerstin som sitter där borta tror jag. Till de på Folkhälsoinstitutet som jag tror finns ingen kvar här nu egentligen. Jo, visst. Tack. Och inte minst till Västra Götalandsregionen. När vi har försökt att sy ihop den här konferensen så har det varit fantastiskt bra att ha en person som stadigt har funnits hela tiden i Göteborg. Agneta Eriksson, du kan väl stå upp. Jag lovar att det blir ingenting om det inte finns en sån förmåga som du. Sen är det så här, vi är väldigt enkla i vårt sätt att fungera. Det här började som ett initiativ som startade upp ganska snabbt. Vi har hållit på 3 gånger, det har blivit fler varje gång. Och varje gång så är det så här att någon har räckt upp handen och sagt att vi vill vara värd nästa gång. Nu är det så här att Högskolan i Jönköping, Bo Malmborg sitter här, räckte upp handen och sa att ja, men vi skulle gärna vilja vara värd 2013. Och vad säger man då? Tack säger man då förstås. Så att vi och en massa andra människor hoppas vi kommer att ses i Jönköping 2013. Ungefär den här tiden på året. Men ni kommer att få veta det för ni är noterade i registret. Så jag skulle bara säga tack så hemskt mycket för att ni kom. Och utanför så väntade västkustska läckerheter. Tack för idag.